So a little bit about TGO. We've been around since 1988, and we help businesses move their organizations forward with technology solutions. We specialize in ERP, BPM, and corporate performance management, specifically with TrueSky. So with that being said, Alan?
Muted.
Thank you, Kathleen. So just really give you a quick overview of TrueSky as a company. We specialize in developing corporate performance management software, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into what that means when I use that term here in a little bit. We are completely focused on developing an application that is, one, user-friendly, but more importantly, finance group maintainable. I think that's a big differentiator between us and a lot of the other applications that are out there, is that we are built from the ground up to be able to allow the finance group to completely run with the solution once it's installed and configured. Our solution supports and enables budgeting, planning, and forecasting, reporting, analytics, as well as dashboarding, and I hope to show you that throughout this presentation. So really quickly, I'm going to start a little poll here through GoToMeeting because I'm just going to try to get an idea from where everyone, and ultimately it is, are you using Excel for your budgeting and forecasting needs? So I'm going to launch the poll here really quick. It should take people just a few minutes to fill it in, so please take just a second and give me a yes or a no on that, just so I kind of know where people are at. And I'll keep it open here for just a little bit until I see a good majority of you have voted. All right, we're climbing up there a little bit more. I'm going to do one more minute here on the poll, or a few more seconds on the poll. All right. Great, I thank you for that. I got pretty much most of you voting here at this point. And really, just for those of you who are curious, we've got about 90% of you or so that are currently using Excel for your planning, budgeting, and forecasting needs. So I think a lot of what I'm going to show you here is really going to resonate for you as we go forward here. So really what I want to talk about to start with, again, because so many of you are using Excel, is what I call the Excel conundrum. Certainly when it comes to corporate performance management, whether that be your planning and budgeting and your forecasting, whether that be your reporting, whether that be your analytics. So there's a lot that people like about Excel, and there's a lot of great, good stuff about Excel. You currently own it. I'm sure a lot of you like that from a financial point of view. It's widely known and widely accepted by user bases. When you bring new people into your organization, odds are they have worked with Excel and they have familiarity with it. It has a very, very powerful interface. It allows you to model any process that you want to model, whether that be things like financial budgeting, revenue forecasting, what have you. It's got a huge amount of flexibility in how you design things. It is a tool that can be used to not only capture data but also report back on that data. And it's a tool, as we know, that is being actively developed and worked upon and continues to have new features and everything else as we go through it. The problem with using Excel, however, in this kind of environment when we're talking about doing things like planning, budgeting, forecasting, analytics, and so forth, is what you're seeing on the screen right now. It takes a great deal of time to create all of these items because you're doing a lot of things like copy-paste from other sources. You're doing a lot of manual manipulation of data. You're managing many, many workbooks, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. You've got different versions of those workbooks. What's the latest? What's going on? You're always dealing with the concept of things like broken links and formulas because somebody changes something that you weren't anticipating or puts in a number you weren't ready for. You get lost data because people use an outdated version or they delete the spreadsheet or what have you. Again, because of the time lag, you've got things like outdated numbers in the system. Really, if you're using this throughout your organization, you have zero insight into where these processes stand. So if you're talking to people about go do some analytics, if you're talking to them about go enter in your budget, you really have no idea if you're using Excel who's done what and when. Obviously, there's security holes about those workbooks walking out the door or being, on that laptop that gets stolen or what have you. And really, you have no process control with it. So when we were developing TrueSky, we knew that organizations really love Excel, and we love Excel. So what we tried to do was to build an application that allowed you to eliminate the bad portions of Excel while allowing you to keep the good portions that you love. And that's really been the focus of our application. So what are we? Well, TrueSky is a corporate performance management solution. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that term, what does that really mean? Well, first of all, it is an application that allows you to get your plan into place. So call it a budget, call it a forecast, what have you. At some point, you are capturing information from those users about where you want your business to be, and we help enable that. Once you have your plans in place, we give you tools that allow you to monitor your plan's performance against your actuals. So pulling in data from, say, your ERP system, from your CRM system, from your order entry, from your HR and payroll system, whatever that information may be, your project tracking system, and being able to compare your plans to how you're doing on actuals. Then, if you see that you have a discrepancy where numbers are too high, too low, don't make sense, giving you those tools to analyze where you're at today and drill down and try to figure out, why are we not meeting plan? Is it a timing issue? Did we not undertake an initiative? Has something changed in the business environment? And ultimately giving you tools to report that kind of information back to your stakeholders, whether that be your employees, whether that be management, whether that be board of directors, or what have you. In which case you can take that data and start replanning again and again. So getting that circle of continual performance and continual improvement. So how do we do that? Well, part of that is because we provide you an application that gives you centralized finance group control. We have a web-based administration interface that allows the finance group to build any kind of planning, budgeting, forecasting, reporting, analytic model that you desire. We give you an interface that allows you to maintain security, to manage your approval process, to add users, to remove users, what have you. All of that is centrally controlled. However, with that, we let you model any business process that you can imagine. So because we're giving you that control, because you can build whatever models, you can build models around financial budgeting, around revenue forecasting. These are just some examples. These are not by any means all that we support, but these are the ones that people seem to ask about a lot. So compensation planning, capital expenditures, maybe project costing or project revenues, any kind of user-defined modeling that you can think of. TrueSky can also be used for structured data capture. So in those environments where you're floating workbooks, Excel worksheets around to get people to put in numbers, and you don't have that control, we can also help you enable that, get you some control and security around those as well. Part of what we provide is a very powerful end-user interface. We have a true Excel interface and not an Excel-like interface. You will see, if you look at other solutions that are out there, CPM solutions, you'll see that phrase Excel-like in quotes quite a bit. Well, we decided to bypass the Excel-like because no matter how powerful your data grid is, it's not going to match the power of Excel. Excel's been around for 20 years. It's had hundreds of millions of dollars dumped into research and development of that product. And really nothing else can match it that is out there. Plus, all of your people know it. A little bit different than what we do than other applications that are out there. We also provide a single interface for all end-user interaction. So you don't have to send your users to a web browser for part of it. You don't have to send your users to Excel for another part and then to a different application for a third part of the process. End users only interact with Excel. However, we have also added specifically designed tools to assist them in getting their assignments done on time and to greater accuracy. Because we're using Excel, because we have a single interface, and because of the tools that we've added, what we have seen is that end-user training is very minimized when you roll out TrueSky within your organization. In fact, some of our clients have really, for their end-user training, recorded maybe a 5-minute web video of how you use the application in our environment and posted it on their intranet. And that really is their end-user training. And because of all this, we have very, very rapid and high degrees of user adoption, which is a big problem with applications of this type in the industry, where you get a lot of pushback from users or who continue to revert back to their old ways. We don't have that, again, because of what we've provided. We allow you to design your workbooks and templates and reports your way. We don't force you to change the way you do things to match our application. The application will be modified or is configured to your needs. So how you present data, what you have on rows, what you have on columns, what you have on colors and shadings, All the look and feel, all the functionality is whatever you want it to be. Again, you've got a lot of flexibility with this tool. We allow you to analyze your data by drilling into your source systems. So whether that data, all of your host data does not have to come into TrueSky. So it can reside in your host system, and we give you tools and hooks to pull data out of your host system. So if you're trying to figure out why do I have a variance, we give you these online tools, and I'm going to show you some of that as we go forward. Again, we're not just a capture tool. We allow you to publish reports, whether those be traditional financial statements, such as an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, or if you're doing things like budget to actual reporting, we allow you to publish those. Or maybe you want to do things like, vendor analysis reports, purchasing reports, aging reports. All of those things can be sourced through TrueSky and rolled out to your end users. And at the end, we also let you build things like interactive dashboards that are showing your KPIs. Again, these are configurable to your organization and what is important to you, and this is just one example that I have up on the screen. Well, how do we bring this and how do we pull this all together? And then I'm going to show you the application. Well, this kind of gives you what I'm going to show you here, a real quick overview of how the process works. And first, someone that is designated as a designer, they build your templates that are used to create reports or input sheets. They use Excel, again, the tool that they're familiar with today that most of you on this webinar are already using. They take Excel and they design what we call a template. Okay. Now that template is stored in our central TrueSky database. A key thing to keep in mind about TrueSky is everything is stored centrally. It's not residing on people's desktops where it can get lost, where it can get corrupted, where it can get edited accidentally. So again, that is stored in the database. When those templates are done and ready to go, someone who is an administrator, could be the same as the designer, could be someone separately, chooses one of those templates and combines it with security settings as well as your approval trees for how your data wants to be approved, and then generates either an assignment or a report. An assignment is designed for data input. A report is a read-only type document. And each individual user, and we handle this automatically for you, gets their own individual copy of that assignment or report. And the reason we do that is we allow you, if you want to let them do their own kind of edits, their own kind of updates, add their own workbooks, add their own charts, graphs, or what have you. And again, at the end of the day, all the data, everything else that we do is stored centrally in our back-end database. So you don't have to worry about things not getting backed up or any data getting corrupted. Because we do all of this, we believe that we bring huge improvements to your cycle. So for many of you using Excel, and especially if you're only doing a once-a-year process, your cycle is going to look like this. And I'm showing you a timeline that goes out about 120 days, 4 months, very common from what I've worked with over the last 20 years of working with clients. And this is how you spend a great deal of your time. Creating workbooks takes months, where you're creating, a different workbook and different worksheet for each user, each department, each location, because that's how you're managing the data. That's how you're managing the security, and because you're scraping data from your ERP and you're manipulating it and so forth. And then you're rolling it out to end users, and it takes quite a bit of time to get that information back from those users. And then you do your review where you have to make sure everything looks right. And then you go through that painful merge process, and that's when you find out that somebody has deleted a row, deleted a column, changed a formula, whatever, and now all your links are broken and so forth, and then you have to fix it. And because of that, then you have to do another review. And then you're going to modify that data. And right before you present it to your stakeholders, your ownership, your management board, your financial institutions, whoever, you're rushed. All that value-added stuff is done at the last days. Well, what we like to think is that we can give you something like you see down below, where the templates that you create are reusable from cycle to cycle, that you don't have to touch them each and every time, that the template formats and the tools that we've provided get your users through input far quicker, that merge goes away completely, and that we give you far more time to do analysis and strategy on your numbers before you finalize the numbers, again, and present them to your board. So with that, I'm going to launch over to a demonstration of TrueSky. Okay. So right now, up on the screen, what everyone should be seeing is Excel, and I'm just going to double check on the audience view and make sure that that's what you guys are seeing. Yep. And we work just like anything else in Excel. So what you're seeing here are the ribbon bars: home, insert, formulas, everything that you're used to working with in Excel. And then you see this little tab over here, which is True Sky. Again, end users only have to interact with Excel. So here on the ribbon bar, a couple things to point out first. First, we support multiple languages. So I only have the French and the English language packs installed right now, but we do support multiple languages, which will allow the interface to tailor to the individual users. So if you're an organization that has some people that want to work in one language, some people that need to work in another language because you have international operations, or if you're in Canada and you have Quebec operations, you can support multiple types of languages here. And again, it'll change the interface as required for those individual users. But right here, I'm going to show you the hub. The hub is the central area where I was talking about, that one area where the end users have to go to do all their interactions with the system. The hub, as you're seeing pops up on the screen here, is going to show me three things. It's going to show me assignments, reports, and templates. Again, assignments are how you get data into the system. Reports are just that. Those are read-only type documents, whether it be a traditional type of tabular report or something like a dashboard. And because I'm an administrator, I'm also seeing the templates that we have in the system, and the templates are the raw documents that are used to create assignments and reports. If I'm not an administrator, the templates pane will be disappeared, so you don't have to worry about teaching people not to work with certain things. But what I'm seeing here on assignments and reports is unique to me as an individual. So based on what has been published by an administrator and based on my security settings, when I come in here, I see 4 assignments that I have to work on, and I see 3 reports that I have access to. However, another user comes in here, they may only see 1 assignment and they might see 12 reports. Again, that's just what the individual sees, grows and shrinks dynamically based on the user, without any real interaction or having manual manipulation by an administrator. And again, it keeps you from having to teach people, well, ignore this, you only have to work on this. Again, they're only presented with what they need to worry about. It's how we kind of get people through the system quicker, less questions, less concerns. So on my assignments over here, you can see that I have a little bit more information as I expanded one. I'm seeing this one is for administrative expenses, and I've got a start and an end date. And the nice thing about our assignments, they can be set up to be open-ended, meaning they'll run forever until you manually close them down. Or you can also do things like automatic start and end dates, where they're not available for that user until they start at a particular date. And you can also set them up to end at a particular date. So if you have those users where you can never seem to get them to get their data and their numbers in on time, you can actually have these assignments shut down automatically at a prescribed date and time. We also have a different level here. We have a full-blown workflow approval process behind the scenes that you can choose to use or not use, as your case may be, within TrueSky. And it can handle very complex things. So it handles more than the simple, which is a lot of applications can handle the simple workflow where 8 users report to 4 users, report to 2 users, report to 1 user. And we certainly support that. But we also support something that is far more complex, where, as an example, I may be responsible for doing data input for departments A and departments B. But Department A goes for one person for approval, and Department B goes to another person for approval. And IT expenses, they go to a third person for approval. And then all of those come back to a fourth person for approval after that. So we can handle those kind of complex approvals things, those dotted line type of approvals as well. So that gives you an idea of the hub there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up for my administrative expenses. And I'm going to show you over here really quick. What's gone down is the system's gone out and it's pulled back the administrative expenses assignment for me as an end user. Well, the first thing we like to present to those users is instructions. Again, just lets them know what's going on, how they need to work with this. And this is telling me that I need to go to the worksheet tab entitled Input to get started, and tells me where I want to enter values and so forth. So I'm going to go to the Worksheet tab, and I'm going to open up my filter pane here. And now what you're seeing here, a little bit bland at this point, but just bear with me for a minute, that it's talking about how I need to press retrieve to get started. Well, over here I'm seeing my filters, and again, TrueSky in many ways. If you think about it as all of you using Excel, pivot tables, you have things on rows, you have things on columns, and you have filters. We have a very analogous kind of system where I have information on rows and columns, and I have my filters or my slicers of data. And you can see right here, these are my slicers for this deployment. I have a slicer for department. I have a slicer for location. And again, these slicers change depending on your deployment of TrueSky and what kind of data you're looking to capture and how you need to report and analyze your data. So these are not, if you don't have locations, no big deal. You won't have locations. Again, this all gets tailored to you as an individual. We support unlimited versions of your budget, so you can have version 1, version 2, version 99, best case, worst case. Allows you to capture data for version 1 and then edit version 2 and compare side by side if you need to do that. For those of you that have multinational operations, we also support multiple currencies. So if you have different locations that are budgeting in different currencies, they can budget in their home currency, and that will be converted back to your main kind of currency so you can do your consolidated budgeting. As an end user, if I wanted to choose what department I want to work with, I can simply click on my little edit button here and be displayed with a list of departments that I am allowed to work with. Again, this list will shrink or grow based on security. So I log in, I'm seeing all of our departments. Somebody else logs in and they might only be able to access the corporate or the HR department. And to select a different department, I can simply click on that little filter right there and it'll let me pull back data for that other department. We also allow you to have things like hierarchical or tree views of your data. So this is one here where I'm seeing kind of how all of our locations roll up and answer to each other. This is really great from a reporting point of view because I can choose to pull back data, as an example, for just my Toronto HQ. Or I can say, you know what, I want to pull back data for my Toronto operations rolled up. And I want to combine that with data from all of my California locations rolled up. And again, without having to create dozens or hundreds of all these different views of your different reports, you're able to create one document and let it be interactive for users to decide what they want to pull back and what they want to work with. So right now I'm retrieving data from our central database. Again, it's key to remember that we don't actually store any data with the Excel workbook itself. Everything is stored in our central database, so you know it's getting backed up, you know it's being, you're able to restore in case of disaster recovery or what have you. So right now I've got my little workbook thing, and I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit so we can look on the whole screen. Again, what you're seeing here is completely tailorable to your organization. I've kind of got time across the top. I'm showing budget versus actual against a variance, and I'm showing the accounts that I want to budget to down the side, but again, that can change on your organization. I'm only bringing back 3 months of data for this example. However, how much you decide to bring back is, again, up to you as an organization. I've got clients that budget 12 months at a time. I've got clients that go out 60 months at a time when they do their budgeting. It's really up to you and what kind of business process that you're budgeting. And that's a little bit different than some other applications that are out there. Some will actually force you to only work with 12 months of data at a time. In addition, your time granularity is up to you as well with TrueSky, and this is a big differentiator between us and a lot of other applications out there. We certainly support the traditional monthly kind of budgeting in 12 months to a year, but you could also budget at a quarterly or a yearly basis, or maybe on the flip side, maybe a weekly or even a daily basis if that's what your business model requires. We also support things like 13 periods per year if you need that because you're doing something like retail with a 445, or if you need to have multiple years. So we need to do certain budgeting processes on a fiscal year, certain on a calendar year, and maybe even a user-defined year. As an example, I'm working with an organization now that is a college, and they have to do part of their reporting on the provincial year. They're in Canada, which is 1 year. They have to do part of their reporting on a calendar year, January to December, and then they have to do part of their, their reporting on the actual school year, which is different from the other two, and we can support all of that from them. So now as an end user, I brought back my data, and really I know if I want to enter in, I can just go in here and I can start typing in, and it's just like any user that's using Excel today. I can type in my numbers as I want. I can do a copy paste, just the traditionally that they're used to working with. I can do that click and drag like Excel allows, and if I need to, I can even do formulas. And again, this is all the exact same Excel functionality that your users are used to working with today, and it's one of the reasons why our user adoption is so quick and our training requirements are so low, because they've done all the same kind of thing today. And the moment I get my numbers in, I can go ahead and hit save. And in real time, again, they're stored back to the central database. And now anyone else that's working with this same set of numbers that has the same security rights here can begin seeing these numbers. So that's how it lets your managers and your approvers start looking at the budget roll-ups in real time, looking at the anything without having to wait, not having to check documents in and out, and all the other things that you have to work with within Excel today. Now, again, we're not just the wild, wild west of Excel. So if I tried to change actuals here, it's actually going to let me know that that area is protected. So we automatically handle things like lockdowns and preventing people from changing areas where you don't want them to change data. Okay, so that's great, but let's talk about some of the other things that we've added in that helps you get through that budgeting process quicker. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is notes. What I have seen time in and time again when people are managing the corporate performance within the organization is a lot of finger pointing. So one group of people put numbers into the system, and then 6 months later when they are comparing their budgets to actuals and saying, hey, you're way over budget or you're way under budget or what have you, what's going on, you hear a lot of, well, those aren't my numbers. I didn't put those numbers into place. I didn't put that in. You can't hold me accountable to that. Well, one of the things that we do is we keep a full audit trail of all the changes that have ever happened within the system, okay? So right here, you can see that these are all the numbers that have been in. You can see the date that the number was put on, who was the user that made the change, and what actual assignment was done to change it. So they'll know, who made the changes, when were the changes made, was it because of somebody as a reviewer made a change of my number, was it because of an allocation that ran, my numbers got changed, and again, if you like those numbers better, you can set them back the way they were before. Again, by doing this, we're avoiding all of that finger pointing and again, letting everyone be on the same page for the numbers. Now, as I talk about being on the same page, we are big believers that when it comes to budgeting and forecasting and data capture, that budgeting, the thought process behind the numbers is just as important as the numbers themselves. So what is the person thinking about? Why this number is going to be so high? Why this number is going to be so low? Well, in Excel, you probably use that right mouse click and add a comment to the workbook that says these are the information for my numbers. The problem is with that is when you go ahead and work and merge all of those workbooks back into your master document, you lose all that great information. Well, what we've done with that is we've kind of taken that concept and taken it a step further, and we've added a full-blown notes feature. This notes feature allows you to add any kind of notes that you want in the system. It tags the note by who entered it, what the date was entered on, and any of the notes there. If I wanted to add a new note, I could simply say add new note, add my note here. If I wanted to, I can even add an attachment. So if I have a business case for why this value should be approved, I can attach it here. If I have a competitor's annual report, I can attach it here. And that stays with the data as it goes through the approval process, and it's there forever as long as you want to keep those notes. So now, as a manager is looking to approve or reject those numbers, they'll kind of have a little bit more information about what that person was thinking. 6 months from now, if you're doing budget to actual type of analysis, you'll also have those ability to look at those notes and see, hey, what's going on and what were you thinking at that time. You can also tag notes to actuals, and we've got great little indicators here that show you where your notes are. So again, if someone needs to actually explain on the actual side why their numbers were so high or so low, we can do that as well. It's just one of those ways out of many that we're trying to make the budgeting, forecasting, and performance management process far more collaborative within your organization, getting everyone on the same page, avoiding all of those one-off emails that fly back and forth. Again, everyone's looking at the same bit of information. So I talked about notes and I talked about the audit trail. Let's talk about a couple of things that we do to help get your users through the data input process quicker. Well, I'm going to close my filter pane here and I'm going to open up my tools pane. And now what we've added to the system is a series of tools, again helping to get users through the process quicker. So a lot of times when you're doing budget, what happens often is what I call the divide by 12 method, if you're budgeting on a yearly basis by month, where you're giving people 12 months of columns to put data into, and what do? They get the number that they think they're going to spend for the year in their mind, and they simply divide that by 12 across each of the months. Now, that gives you numbers, but as we all know, very seldom are revenues and expenses equally divided by 12 throughout the organization. However, if that's what you want to let your people do, we can help enable that by letting it go quicker. So I've highlighted my 3 cells here, and I put 12,000 up here, and maybe I want to choose from my drop-down list, I want to do an even spread. And now you can see that what that did is that went cell by cell by cell and automatically spread that 12,000 across those 3 cells without me having to do the math cell by cell by cell. Well, that's great, but maybe you know that your business has some level of seasonality to it. Some people call this seasonality, some people call it calendarization, some call it spreading, what have you. And you know that every year, the first month of a quarter is going to be your high month for whatever reason. That's just your business model, or maybe it's the summer months, or maybe it's the winter months, whatever the case may be. Well, now you can see when I choose Start High, and I do that, it actually allocated more money to January and less to February, March, based on logic that you put into the system. Now, this logic to build this does not require a programmer. This is not hard-coded. This is the kind of thing that anyone that knows Excel, that the person that's going to be designing your templates, can put into the system. You don't need to know a lick of code. You don't need to rely on us to build these. You can build whatever kind of allocation models that you want for this kind of spreading. Now, maybe, and this is what I'm a big believer in, is that the seasonality and the spreading of this year's expenses probably and most likely is going to maybe mirror last year's. So right here, I'm going to select actuals, and I'm going to do 12,000. If you look over here, for there, you see how my actuals go low, high, low. And now when I do that replace, you're going to see that it took that 12,000 and it actually allocated it on the same basis as what we had here. And again, this is one of the ways I think that we get users through the data input process quicker, but also get you better and more accurate type numbers into the system. Now, numbers have gone in for submission for approval. Reviewer looks at them and says, hey, I need you to reduce certain numbers by 23.5%. Well, you know what? I could go cell by cell by cell and try to figure out what a 23.5% decrease is. But that's going to take me quite a bit of time because there's no built-in function for doing that in Excel. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to type in 23.5. Now I'm going to choose percentage for my drop-down this time, and now I'm going to choose that decrease button. And what you're going to see is it went, and it went pretty quick, and I'll do it again. It's going to go cell by cell and actually decrease each of those cells by 23.5% without me having to do it manually. Again, one of the ways that we get people through the process quicker and get you better numbers without a whole lot of extra work on each of those individuals. All right. Next thing that we've done, that we've added into the system, is the ability to do a buildup of data. So there's a lot of situations, and I'm going to scroll down here to the more to the bottom of the screen, where maybe you only capture data at a certain level. And one of those I'm going to use as an example is employee training here. Okay, so for employee training, maybe at a GL level, I only have a natural account for employee training, 6270. Okay, however, if I'm asking my department managers to budget for their employees' trainings throughout the year, what are they going to do? Well, odds are they're going to fire up their own spreadsheet. They're going to put all of their employees onto that spreadsheet. They're then going to think about what classes they're going to take, and they're going to type that in, and then they're going to put in the dollars. They're going to sum that up, and they're going to copy and paste that bottom line number into your workbook here. Okay? Great, you get the numbers that you want, but what's wrong with that process? Well, first and foremost, you've created extra work for that individual because they're creating their own workbook, they're having to think a different way, and they're having to do all that copy back into your format. So that's one of the reasons why these processes start to drag on and take much longer. But even worse, you've lost all of that great, valuable information from that user about what they were thinking when they were budgeting. Okay, because that workbook, odds are, stays on their desktop. Maybe they keep it, maybe they delete it. But 6 months from now, again, workbook's deleted, that person's left the company, and you're trying to compare why was that number so high or so low. You've got nothing to go on, all right? But here, what we allow you to do is add inline all of that additional great detail. So right here, if I want to add another class, I simply go up here and say add detail to the line that I'm on. You see it let me put in a new line, and I'm going to do some kind of super training for Alan, and that's going to be in January, and that's going to be $2,500, whatever that course may be. And you can see my top line total automatically adjusted for that. And when I save, not only are we saving the top line numbers here as well, we're also saving all of this great detail into the system as well. So now your approvers and your reviewers, hey, they know exactly what the person that's contributing to the budget is thinking when they're doing the budgeting. 6 months from now, when you're doing your budget to actual type comparisons, yes, maybe you're not pulling things in from AP automatically, but at least you know what that individual was thinking when they were doing the budget. Enable this feature, no extra work. All you had to do was say, do we want to allow it, yes or no, and we take care of it from there. Again, it's just a way that you can get a lot better data into the system in a greater factor, getting everyone on the same page. That's what we call details there. Okay, a couple other things that I'm going to show you here that are kind of global. Many times when you roll out a budgeting cycle to your end users, you're going to send out in an email, hey, these are our targets that we're trying to hit. We need you to increase by 10% over here. We need you to decrease by 20% over here. And what happens? People take that email, they read it, and they ignore it from there on out. Okay, and they submit numbers for approval that are wildly off. Well, we allow you to build those kind of validation rules right into the system. And again, to build these does not require any level of programming, does not require any, coding or anything else. These are the kind of things that you're able to maintain and create yourselves. We spend a lot of time on an interface that allows the finance group to manage these themselves. So I have a rule in place here today that says anytime I have a cost category, it's coming down the side here, that is greater than 20% over last year, I want to know about it. So I'm going to hit the validate button here. And right now what it's doing is it's going through my whole workbook and finding all of those areas where I have not met the guidance. And here I've got one right here where I've got my worksheet. It lets me know that it's greater than 20% and actually shows me that line that what I'm doing. And again, I have chosen to also leverage some of the great conditional formatting that Excel provides. And again, we do a lot of that work with Excel. Again, we like what Excel brings to the table here in order to highlight what they've done. And then I can go to the next one down there and I see all those different areas where I have met guidance. Now these validations can be run in a couple different ways. You can set up the validations to run manually, just to provide information to those users when they press the button. They can also be set up to fire every time a user hits save or after they retrieve data, so it's in their face, they know a little bit more about it. Also, if you're doing a workflow approval process on these numbers, you can do these validations will automatically fire when they try to submit for approval, and they can either A, give them a warning, just let them know, hey, you're outside of our prescribed guidance, it might get rejected, or you can even set up rules that say, hey, you know what, you are so far out of the boundaries of what we find acceptable, we're not going to even let you submit for approval, and here's why. But because we know that if you submit for approval now, it's just going to get rejected and you're wasting everybody's time. So you can even take it to that level of degree if you like. So those are the validations, and those are the things that allow you to do whatever you need to do. All right, so that's a basic overview of some things. Now I want to show you a little bit different spin on another thing that we bring to the table as an organization that we do a little bit differently than a lot of the other things that are out there. So I'm going to close down this one, and I'm going to go over here to an example that I have that is all geared around putting in travel expenses. Okay? So as an organization, what I'm showing up here when you're trying to capture travel expenses is probably pretty traditional. And this is the way finance and accounting people think about something like travel expenses. And this is not a knock on a finance or accounting person. That's my background. But it is how they think because it's very general ledger based. I'm saying what am I going to spend for the year, and what are my GL accounts that I'm going to tag it to. Okay, so I'm spending money against airfare, hotels, and lodging, and so forth. Problem with this is if you give this template to the finance people, great. This is exactly how they're thinking. However, if you were to give this to, say, salespeople, and let's say your sales staff travels from customer to customer, flying across the country, doing customer visits or prospect visits as part of their job. How do they think about travel expenses? Well, first and foremost, they're thinking about the trips they need to make. I'm going to go to point A, and then I'm going to go to point B, and then I'm going to visit client over in point C or what have you. And then they're probably going to think about how long they're going to be there and what are the costs that they're going to incur while they're there. So much like the example I talked about earlier, where they're going to create their own workbook, for the employee training expenses, they're going to do the exact same thing for travel expenses. Okay, and again, what's wrong with that? Well, when you've increased their workload, you've added time to the process, and you're going to lose all of that great data. Well, we let you kind of have the best of both worlds with TrueSky because we can support some different layouts that are geared towards the business process at hand that allow you to take a different spin on your data, which is kind of why we call it a pivoted layout. So right over here, what I've done is I've built a template is how you might roll it out during your process to salespeople. Where here they're allowed to make kind of the trips that they're going to make their primary object because that's how they're going to think. And then look at the costs that they're going to spend related to that. And so now if I wanted to add another trip, right here I can say this is my to our other company right here, and it's going to happen in February, and I'm going to have an airline ticket of $800, and I'm going to be spending for 4 nights, but I like really nice hotels, really nice hotels right there, and because I'm going to be taking the client out to dinner a lot, we're going to have quite a bit of meals, entertainment expenses, and so forth. And I can put those numbers into the system just like that, and I can add another trip and so forth. And now I can go ahead and save my data. And it's going to save that back to the database, okay, into our central data store. Now again, that's great. I've given a format that allows the salespeople to get their numbers in the way they need to. But on the flip side, if I go back to the accounting and finance view, and now what I want to do is refresh my data right here. In real time, again, we talked about how once we save, everything is in real time with TrueSky, no waiting for cubes to process or anything else like that. We're going to bring back, and now you can see I've got those numbers that weren't there before, that 800, that 1,200, and then $1,000. And if I expand out, you can see my new trip right there. So what we're allowing you to do is to build different input sheets that are specific to the user base and the business process being targeted, that are going to get people through that process as quick as possible, that get you the highest quality data that you can get, and then gets it all back into the format that the finance group needs to do to run their operations, okay, all within one application, and eliminating all that extra work and Excel workbooks that are floating around. So now I've got all that data into the system, and maybe again I'm a reviewer, I'm looking at stuff, and I want to get a little bit more information about what's going on. So I'm going to go back into administrative expenses here. And I'm going to talk about a feature that really gives you some great drill down capabilities. And this is the kind of thing that you might use when you're analyzing your data. I'm going back and I'm comparing, hey, why are my numbers so high or so low? Well, right here, and you can see I'm working for my Toronto location, and I'm working, in Canadian dollars. So maybe I'm a reviewer, and I want to get a little feel for, yeah, this guy budgeted in Canadian dollars, but what does that mean to me because I'm a reviewer that's in the US. So right here, you can see I've highlighted this cell for 5678. What is that now, Canadian? What does that mean in US? So right now I'm going to go to my links, and I'm going to go up to this drill down, and I'm going to go to something that I've called currency conversion. And right here on screen, what it's going to do is in real time, it's going out to a website and pulling in currency conversion for that value, 5678, that's in Canadian dollars, and converting it to US. Now, that drill down was not hard-coded. I didn't have to hard-code the 5678, and I didn't have to hard-code that it was coming from Canadian dollars. What we're able to do is build these kind of links where you can choose to dynamically and logically pass attributes to different things. So it knew that I was in Canadian dollars, so it's going to pass Canadian dollar abbreviation, I knew I was on 5678. And if I wanted to see something like what 153 meant, I could do the same thing and convert that to currency. And right there it converted the $153. Okay, so that's one view with drill downs coming into kind of a web browser. Again, maybe I want to know a little bit more about the Toronto location. What might this come into play? Maybe you're doing customer budgeting and you want to look at where that customer resides and a little bit more here. I could do a link and right here I can do a location search, and it's going to actually take me to a map that shows you that location of that customer, where they're at. Great if you're doing reporting and you want to learn a little bit more about what's around that customer. Maybe there's other people you want to look at, and that's our office, by the way. So that's one view, and these are going to websites, and these can do any kind of websites that you want to be, whether it be a Google search, whether it is a SQL Server reporting services report or a Crystal report, maybe drilling back into your ERP, or to bring up other that. But now maybe I want to take it to the next level. I'm a user and I say, you know what? There is no way I spent $56.78 in February, and there's no way I spent $54,000 for the year here, or for the month, right? I disagree with that. Stuff's getting booked wrong. Well, right here we give you the ability to actually drill back into your source data. Okay? Now this is different than from a lot of applications. A lot of other applications will say they've got drill down. But what that means is you're only able to drill down into information within their application themselves. We've taken it a step farther. We allow you to drill down into app data into other applications. So instead of having to bring all of your ERP data into TrueSky, instead of having to bring and maintain all of your CRM, all of your order entry, all of your HR and payroll data, whatever case may be, into our database and maintain 2 different data stores and all of that kind of stuff. You only have to bring in what you want, and then we give you the ability to direct links back into those host systems. So right here, I'm complaining. I don't think I spent that money. Well, I want to look at all of the purchasing transactions that happened. And right now what we've done is we've made a call, and for that department, for that location, we're only bringing back those kind of transactions that they spent over that time period. So now you can see these are my accounts that I hit. These are my account descriptions. I can expand this a little bit more. I have the ability to do things like filters and find only particular kind of items here. If I want to look at my purchases amount, I can do things like do my top 10 purchases if I wanted to do analysis that way, and only see what were my top 10 spends right here. Again, all online without all having to bug the IT group or bug the finance group. If I wanted to do some deeper analysis, I can say, you know what, how did I spend my money? Well, I can see, let's see, I had some items related to company cars, some related to dues and subscriptions. Here we have some stuff that was based on supplies for hardware, right? And I'm looking, or software, right? This is my software account. And now I'm seeing there was actually a purchase for a tablet computer, from the mobile warehouse. So this is an item that has actually been miscategorized when it was put into the ERP system. So again, we're letting end users do all of this great deep dive analytics without having to go and ask for 100 different reports, without having to bug the IT group. And if they wanted to say export this out to Excel to work on it themselves, they could simply do the export, and we'll give them a dump of that data from Excel where they can continue working on it, again, grouped and sorted automatically based on how they want to see it. It's just one of the tools that we provide that takes us from beyond a budgeting capture tool to an analytical type tool. Again, we've got security around all of this, so you don't have to worry about people getting into areas that they shouldn't get into, seeing data that they shouldn't need to get into. We've taken care of all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of our drill down and our analysis type feature. At the end of the day, I'd like you to remember that we are not just that kind of capture tool. We are a reporting tool. Here's an example of a income statement. Again, make these look however you want. But this is the concept where we can also support things of a rolling forecast, where I'm bringing back so many months of actuals up here and then so many months of forecast and comparing that to budgets, and you can do variances and so forth and have additional drill down as you need to do it. We also give you the capability of creating dashboards. So here's an example here of a financial dashboard that I've created. It gives you that capability to do different comparisons in real time. So maybe I want to compare actual to budget for 2014 against 2015. I could then choose to compare budget 2013 to budget 2016. Whatever I needed to do, all in a real-time capability showing whatever KPIs that you need to do. This is great for upper-level management, people that just need a quick glance. Even if you want to start representing things geospatially on maps, again, supporting that kind of concept here as well. So that's kind of the quick overview of everything we do from that. I'm going to do a couple different wrap-up slides and open it up for any kind of questions that we might have here. So at the end of the day, what are some of the benefits of utilizing TrueSky? Well, we think we give you far greater effective planning, forecasting, and reporting. You get greater accuracy, you get increased frequency and a shorter turnaround time, and you get visibility throughout. We let you leverage existing knowledge and your investment that you've already made in Excel. You get to model any business process pulling from any data source. We have a very minimal IT footprint, and I think as you've seen just how easy it can be to use, minimal training. We have a low total cost of ownership, and we can be that one tool that does it all for you when it comes to performance management, reporting, and so forth. We really believe in our solution, and we think that deploying something like TrueSky in your organization can save you quite a bit of money. So on the screen, what you're seeing is a URL link, and we will send it out in a follow-up email where we've got a calculator that you can go out there and look at some of your potential savings for deploying a solution like TrueSky over using Excel within your organization, just of how much you can save on the process and get your people doing things that are more productive that can actually drive your business forward. So take a time to go out and look at that.